Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take these big, complex documents and really pull out the useful stuff for you.
Exactly. We try to cut through the jargon and find the core story.
And today, we're tackling a big one. It's the 2024 10K filing from Alphabet Inc. You know, Google's parent company.
Right, the 10K. That's the official annual report they have to file with the SEC. It's
Yeah.
packed with details on the business, the risks, the financials.
It sounds kind of dry, doesn't it? But honestly, it's where the company talks about itself in this very specific, regulated way.
Yeah.
You find out what they're focused on, what worries them.
And the scale here is just,
Yeah.
well, it's huge. The document itself mentions, I think it was around $2.0 trillion for the market value of their main shares back in June 2024. It just gives you a sense of the size we're dealing with.
Wow. Okay, so our mission today, navigate this thing, figure out what Alphabet says its business is, where the big money, especially the investment, is going, what risks they're flagging, and, what it all means for you using their stuff every day.
Sounds good. So where do we start? How does Alphabet actually describe itself in this filing? What's the official mission?
Well, right up front, they talk about building an even more helpful Google for everyone and giving people tools to increase their knowledge, health, happiness, and success. Pretty broad goals.
Okay, broad goals. How do they break that down into actual products or services?
They hit the big ones everyone knows.
Yeah.
Google search, obviously helping people find info, handling, get this, trillions of searches every year.
Trillions. Yeah.
Then YouTube, not just cat videos, right?
Yeah.
They mentioned entertainment, but also information, learning, and supporting creators through the YouTube Partner Program.
Okay.
And Google Cloud. That's focused on business customers, helping them solve problems, be more productive, save money, unlock growth, the usual cloud pitch.
So search, YouTube, cloud, the core pillars.
Exactly. And underpinning all that, they make a big point about R&D investment, over $150 billion in the last 5 years alone.
$150 billion. That's a serious number. It really tells you innovation isn't just like a side thing for them. It's fundamental.
Totally. And when you dig into where that innovation focus is,
Yeah.
one theme just jumps out everywhere.
Let me guess. AI.
You got it. Artificial intelligence. It feels like it's woven into almost everything strategic in this document. They state their goal is to build the most advanced, safe, and responsible AI.
Right. And they don't just leave it there. They give specific examples of how AI is driving investment and product development across the board.
Yeah, like in Google Cloud, it's not just offering cloud storage anymore. They're talking AI-optimized servers, platforms like Vertex AI for developers, access to powerful models, AI assistants. They even mentioned Gemini for cloud, helping write code or analyze cyber threats.
And in search, too, right? It's changing how search works.
Definitely. Things like AI overviews for answering complex questions correctly, analyzing info within videos, tools like Notebook LM to help you summarize stuff. It's about making search, well, smarter.
And it's showing up in Workspace, too, the tools many people use for work.
Yep, Gemini for Workspace. Helping write emails, organize things, speed up workflows, making meetings richer, they claim. Even YouTube is using Gemini, apparently, to improve recommendations, getting you to watch that next video.
And they're looking ahead, too. The document mentions future stuff, research.
They talk about Gemini 2.0 in prototypes like Project Astra, this idea of a universal AI assistant, and Project Mariner, an experiment for AI taking actions in your Chrome browser. They also kind of pat themselves on the back, noting things that started as moonshots are now core products.
And they mention continued investment in really frontier tech, like quantum computing alongside AI.
And you could literally see this AI push hitting the bottom line in terms of spending. They explicitly connect the huge jump in capital expenditures, spending on data centers, servers, that kind of long-term stuff, directly to supporting AI.
How big a jump are we talking?
It went from $32.3 billion in 2023 up to $52.5 billion in 2024.
Wow, that's nearly a $20 billion increase in 1 year for CapEx.
Yeah.
That's probably the clearest signal of just how all in they are on building the infrastructure for AI. Really tangible evidence.
So AI is clearly transforming their strategy, their products, their spending. But okay, let's talk about the money coming in. How does this giant actually make its revenue?
Well, the 10K is very clear on this. The overwhelming majority comes from Google services, and within that, it's primarily advertising. Ads on Google Search, ads on YouTube, ads on websites in their Google network.
And they give a percentage, right? It's still huge.
Yep, more than 75% of total revenue in 2024. Still overwhelmingly an advertising company when you look at the top line.
3/4 from ads.
Okay. And they detail the types. Performance ads, those are the ones trying to get you to click, focused on relevance and measurable results. Think simple text ads. And then brand advertising, which is more about general awareness.
But there are other bits within Google services, the non-ad parts.
Absolutely. And those are growing. You've got consumer subscriptions, things like YouTube TV, Music Premium, NFL Sunday Ticket Now, Google One storage.
Yeah.
Then there's platforms revenue, which is mostly Google Play apps and in-app purchases, though they note that's reported net of what they pay developers. And finally, devices revenue, so sales of Pixel phones, watches, earbuds, etc.
But how profitable are those compared to ads? I think I saw something on that.
You did. The document points out that these non-ad revenues, even though they're increasing, generally have lower margins than advertising. And they specifically say device sales adversely affect our consolidated margins.
So diversifying is good, but the profit engine is still very much ads.
That's the picture it paints. They even give some metrics on ad performance changes, like on search, paid clicks went up 5%, and the cost per click went up 7% from 2023 to 2024.
Meaning advertisers are clicking more and paying more per click on search.
Right. On the network side, partner websites impressions, so how often ads were shown, actually decreased 11%, but the cost per impression increased 10%.
Fewer ads shown, but each one costing more. What does that suggest?
Could be several things. Maybe better targeting, more valuable ad placements, different formats, allowing them to charge more even if volume drops slightly in some areas. It suggests they're optimizing for value.
Okay, so looking at that whole revenue picture, what really stands out to you? For me, it's just, the sheer dominance of advertising still.
It's undeniable. Okay, so that's the income side. Now, the flip side, what could go wrong? The risk factors section. This is often where you get the really interesting insights.
Right, the part everyone usually scrolls past. But it tells you what the company itself sees as potential threats. Let's dig in. What are the big ones?
Well, no surprise, given the revenue mix, the first major risk is that heavy reliance on advertising. They worry about things like reduced ad spending if the economy tanks, losing big partners, the impact of ad blocking tech getting better.
And privacy changes, right? That's a huge topic.
Exactly. Changes like phasing out third-party cookies, different ways users give consent, anything that makes tracking or targeting harder is a direct threat to the core business.
Makes sense. What's next on the worry list?
Intense competition. They acknowledge they face serious rivals everywhere. Search, cloud, devices, ad tech, and especially AI now. Competitors might have better tech or stronger patents. They basically say they need constant innovation just to keep up.
And all those big bets they're making, like on AI and hardware, those carry risk too.
Definitely. They explicitly call out the risk that new businesses and products, AI features, devices, their other bets ventures might just not work out commercially, or they could divert management attention from the profitable core. Plus, that huge infrastructure spend, the $52.5 billion capex, that's a risk if technology changes fast and those assets become less useful than planned.
And just the risk of things breaking.
Yeah.
Systems going down.
Yes, their dependence on complex global IT systems. They mention vulnerability to cyber attacks and specifically flag that AI features could increase that risk, natural disasters, mentioning some data centers are in earthquake zones, geopolitical issues, climate change impacts, like power grids failing or wildfires, supply chain problems for hardware. A major outage could be really damaging.
Being global must bring its own set of challenges too.
For sure. International operations expose them to currency swings. They mention unfavorable impacts from the yen, the Argentine peso, the Brazilian real in 2024, even with hedging programs. Then there's navigating different, sometimes conflicting regulations everywhere, political unrest, conflicts like in the Middle East and Ukraine, different labor law. It's complex.
And privacy and data protection.
Right.
Feels like that risk is only growing, especially with AI needing so much data.
It's highlighted as a major escalating risk. Laws are changing constantly worldwide. AI adoption just intensifies the scrutiny on how personal data is collected, used, protected. They explicitly warn about the increased risk of inadvertent disclosure of sensitive data when using AI. Any slip-up, real or perceived, could mean huge fines, lawsuits, and serious damage to their reputation.
They also mention platform abuse, like bad actors using their services.
Right. Despite investing a lot in safety, the sheer scale means people try to misuse their platforms. Fake accounts, election interference, spam, scraping data, spreading disinformation. They admit that the scale and things like encryption make it hard to catch everything. Even small incidents can add up.
Okay, now the big one, often in these filings,
Yeah.
legal and regulatory battles. What are they flagging there?
It's a significant list. Antitrust is front and center. The DOJ search case, a court ruled against them in 2024. Now they're waiting on the remedy phase in 2025, what they'll actually have to do. They're appealing, but the DOJ is pushing for potentially major changes, maybe even structural ones.
Structural changes, like breaking things up. Wow.
It's on the table, potentially. Then there's the Epic Games case about the Google Play Store. A jury found against them, and remedies were ordered in late 2024 requiring big changes to their Android and Play Store practices. They're appealing that too, but it could force fundamental shifts and cost a lot if they lose.
Any other major antitrust suits?
Yes, ongoing cases about their ad tech business brought by states and the DOJ. One trial is set for March 2025. Another decision is expected early 2025.
And it's not just the U.S., right?
No, they mention international probes too, like in Australia and Japan looking at search practices. Beyond antitrust, they worry about challenges to legal safe harbors like Section 230 in the U.S. or the DSA in Europe that currently limit their liability for user content. Changes there could expose them much more.
Plus, general consumer protection laws, IP claims, especially with AI creating new things in tax audits.
Yep. Tax risks are detailed too. Changes in global tax law like digital services taxes, the OECD minimum tax, the U.S. buyback tax could all impact them. And the IRS is currently auditing their 2016-2021 U.S. returns. An adverse outcome could mean big adjustments. They noted their tax rate went up in 2024, partly due to some prior year adjustments.
And finally, there's something about the founders' control.
Right. Larry Page and Sergey Brin still hold a majority of the voting power, over 52%, through their special Class B shares. That limits other shareholders' influence on big decisions. They also mention anti-takeover provisions in their charter that could make a hostile buyout harder.
You know, looking across all those risks, it's striking how interconnected they feel. AI pops up everywhere as an investment, a competitive area, a source of data risk, needing huge infrastructure, creating legal questions.
Absolutely. It really shows how technology, business strategy, regulation, and global events all weave together for a company like this. The risks aren't neatly separated, they influence each other.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We won't drown in numbers, but did any key financial highlights for 2024 jump out from the document?
Yeah, a few top-line figures. Total revenues hit $350 billion in 2024, up nicely from $307 billion the year before.
Solid growth. And costs.
They give a rough breakdown. Cost of revenues was about 42% of that $350 billion. Sales and marketing was 8%. General and admin was 4%. Interestingly, G&A expenses actually went down a bit, partly due to lower legal charges and slightly lower employee compensation costs, maybe related to headcount changes. Operating income was up for both Google Services and Google Cloud.
And cash generation. Still strong.
Very strong. Operating cash flow was $125.3 billion for the year. A lot of cash coming in the door from operations.
Huge number. And what about giving some of that back to shareholders? They mentioned a couple of things there.
They did. First, they started a brand new cash dividend program in June 2024. Over the whole year, they paid out $7.4 billion in dividends.
A new dividend. Okay. And buybacks. Are they still buying back lots of stock?
Oh, yes. They spent another $62 billion on share repurchases in 2024. Really significant amounts going to both dividends now and buybacks.
It's interesting, isn't it? Seeing a company known for pouring money into R&D and building things also starting dividends and doing massive buybacks.
It suggests a certain maturity, perhaps, balancing future investment, especially in AI, with returning capital to shareholders. They do add the usual caveats. The dividend isn't guaranteed every quarter. And those buybacks, as we noted, could slightly increase the founders' relative voting control over time.
Right. One last point amidst all the tech and finance talk. They do briefly mention the people, don't they?
They do, yeah. They describe Alphabet as a company of curious, talented, and passionate people. They call employees critical assets for success and talk about aiming for fulfilling careers with competitive pay and benefits.
And they explicitly say they expect to keep hiring globally. A reminder that behind the algorithms and data centers, it's still about human talent.
Exactly. It grounds all the strategy and numbers in the people who actually have to execute it.
Okay, so let's step back. We've gone through Alphabet's own description of itself from the 2024 10K. What does this deep dive tell you, the listener? It shows a company, Alphabet's own picture, that's still built on a massively dominant ad business, while making colossal strategic bets on AI that touch everything they do.
Yeah.
They're facing a really complex web of global regulations, legal fights, intense competition.
You're managing huge systems and risks, from cyber threats to climate change.
All while trying to hire and keep the best people and increasingly return cash to shareholders through dividends and buybacks. It's a fascinating snapshot.
It really is, and it leaves you with a crucial question to think about based directly on what's in this document. They explicitly acknowledge the significant risks tied to AI ethical issues, security, environmental costs, unpredictable regulation, yet they are simultaneously investing tens of billions aiming to build the most advanced, safe, and responsible AI. So the question is, how will that inherent tension play out? How will the drive for advancement and market share in AI ultimately balance against that stated commitment to safety and responsibility, especially as these powerful tools get pushed further into the products you interact with every day? The 10K lays out the balancing act. Seeing how they manage it will be key.
That's definitely something to watch. A great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Alphabet's 2024 10K.
We hope it gives you a richer understanding of the forces shaping one of the world's most influential companies, straight from their own perspective.